Welcome to Combos from the Couch by LifeStance Health, where leading mental health professionals help guide you on your journey to a healthier, more fulfilling life. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Combos from the Couch. I'm Nicolette Lianza, and joining me today is psychologist Dr. Rachel Polikoff, and we'll be talking about clinicians helping those affected by the Los Angeles fires. So welcome back, Rachel. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Nicolette. I appreciate the invite.
You know, the impact of the January 2025 Los Angeles fires has caused immense suffering across Southern California communities, displacing families, destroying homes, and tragically claiming lives. So, Rachel, really glad that we're having this important discussion today on this topic.
Me
So
too.
tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience working with individuals affected by the fires.
I've been in practice for about 10 years, and I have worked with clients that have been affected by other disasters in the past or personal tragedies in the past. The LA fires were probably the worst I've seen in terms of its effect on my clients and the post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms that followed. So it was very difficult for a lot of my clients, and they are still dealing with the mental health consequences.
What are some of the trauma symptoms people may experience from the fires?
A lot of my clients have experienced nightmares about the event, re-experiencing the event. So like when you're at work, you zone out and you see the events happening before you. One of my clients gave me permission to share that her home burned down as well as her chickens dying.
Yeah.
And she wakes up to nightmares of the corpses of the chickens. And it's very sad. She really bonded with these pets and they passed and she saw them pass away. So really terrifying.
And that makes me want to ask you, how do you how are you navigating your own trauma related to hearing the stories from your clients?
I'm maybe a bit of an interesting case because I also lived through a fire up in the Bay Area and I actually experienced post traumatic stress disorder myself at that time. I did some sessions of EMDR, which is a very helpful kind of therapy. Similar to what I do with my clients, only I do something more called trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy, which also allows you to let your body calm and hear the symptoms, or sorry, hear the trauma and adapt to it and realize that you're not in a threat zone anymore. So these kinds of therapies are very helpful because I had already dealt with my own trauma from fires. And it was a long time ago, almost 10 years ago, actually, in December. I found that I was able to carry that knowledge forward and help my clients. I don't share that with my clients. Normally, I think that's a little bit too much self disclosure. And it's not your purpose in the session to make it about you. It never is. But I'm comfortable talking about it on here because I think it really informs the work that I've done with my clients. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate the vulnerability in sharing that too.
Sure. Yeah. I haven't talked about it publicly much. I was a big story in the news almost 10 years ago, and there was a lot of interviewing of people, and I had just gotten my license. So I didn't talk much about it, honestly, but
Wow.
grateful to be able to share now. And I want to share to anyone if you go through a fire and lose property, animals, even people that you love, it is possible to rebuild your life. And I'm proof of that. So,
My gosh, definitely appreciate that aspect of hope that you're giving there. Which,
yeah.
if we ask more specifically, what coping strategies would you suggest for people rebuilding their lives?
Certainly, I would say weekly therapy at the very minimum, and some people might need more than that to journaling, processing with a professional. We don't want to flood ourselves by doing it all on our own. Meditation practice was very helpful for me at that time, and mindfulness practice, which is something else that I strive to teach with my clients as well. And in general, just being around people that you love, having a supportive community. I was very lucky with my case that there were other survivors to talk to. And what I've recommended with my clients is to actually reach out to other survivors, talk to them, try to share story, and try to help themselves to feel connected. So.
Which definitely brings me to emphasizing how important is that community support right there in recovery when everyone seems to be affected. Seems like it's very key.
Yes, studies have shown that this is true. I can't name the references off the top of my head right now, but in post-traumatic stress disorder research, that is very true. Connectedness is a key factor to ameliorating the symptoms. And then also with my clients, I found that to be true. One thing that one of my clients told me is that she was so grateful that so many people have reached out to be supportive and help her. It can also feel a little bit overwhelming at first. So there's a back and forth with that. So that's why I think it's important to also have a few really close friends that you can talk to, like in detail about it, rather than just getting like an Instagram message or a Facebook message or something like that, because that can feel a little bit impersonal.
That's a good word. It definitely can feel impersonal.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to therapists new to working with disaster survivors?
I would recommend getting a certification, honestly, in trauma focused CBT. That one's a little bit easier to get than the EMDR certification. That one takes about 2 years for most therapists, and it can be a little bit it can be expensive, basically.
Okay.
It can be worth it too. But I would recommend getting some kind of certification, some training. I wouldn't recommend just going in there thinking that what you could do, or that, especially if you haven't, like, I didn't study this in school in my PhD program. So I thought it was very important to get a trauma focused CBT certification. And I would recommend that. If you have this certification, I would say, yeah, try to use some of the manualized treatments that work, but also feel free to bring your authentic self. I'm sure that even though I don't overshare about my own trauma, I think my clients can pick up on the fact that I'm empathizing with them and what they've gone through.
Got you. My gosh, thank you, Rachel. Thank you for sharing about your own experience, as well as, what some of the trauma symptoms are for people and some strategies for them to do to help rebuild their own lives. So thank you again.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I'd also like to thank the team behind the podcast, Jason Clayton and Juliana Winnan. Thank you for listening to Converse from the Couch. Take care, everyone.